What is up, you guys? Welcome back to Twink Revolution. I'm Sam.
And I'm Gian.
And you're hearing our pre-recorded voices because we're on a trip next week.
It's like listening to us from beyond the grave. Honestly.
Yeah. We're going to the Midwest and we're going to see some unnamed podcast sluts.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll post a picture on Instagram or something, you know.
We may or may not record a collaborative episode from inside a spray tan booth. You never know. Anything can happen.
Yeah. Live stream from what is the Steamworks?
Steamworks, yeah. Chicago Steamworks. It'd be great.
Great way to get COVID. How did you get COVID? I went to the Steamworks.
Not to have sex, just to record a podcast episode.
Just walk around.
Saddest way to die.
Up top, bottom, verse. Me, Stalin, or Hitler. I always get verse. No, I'm just kidding.
So before we jump in, we watched the debate last night.
It was hilarious. It was like the funniest SNL skit because like SNL's not funny, so the bar is pretty low.
Oh, God, that shit was tragic. I did not much care for it, honestly. I don't think anyone was trying very hard.
No, it was a mess. But like, at least it was a fire you want to just keep watching burn versus like the Democratic debates where it's like, oh my God, just like blow each other already.
End it now.
So this one's like funny and like I think Trump's debating style is kind of like entertaining versus like everyone doing like fake like Democrats and all this
Democratic
fake
civility
debate.
politics.
And then like you run Kamala with Joe Biden. It's like, so it was all bullshit. Like,
oh yeah, it was all theater. But Trump sort of just bullying Joe Biden on stage, very funny. Yeah. And then Joe Biden sort of like, oh, well, come on, man. Do I get my time back? Like kind of whining to the moderator.
He also has major purge face. Like he has a face for a purge mask, and his dental hygienist whitened his teeth far too white.
Oh no, I think Joe Biden always looks like he's sniffing something bad these days while he's still squinting with his like strange, just like all black eyes. No whites to his eyes whatsoever visible, and he sort of looks like he's smelling something bad as he's trying to remember what stupid platitude or focus group line he's meant to be rehearsing there, and it's bad.
Like when he smiles, it's like if you could be cynical while having Alzheimer's, that's what he gives off. It's like, I don't know where I am, but I'm crazy as fuck and gonna kill all of you. Like that's the vibe he gives me.
That's
it's not comforting.
No, it's creepy. Yeah. So we have some questions we collected from our beautiful listeners.
It's a Q&A episode, so we asked y'all on Instagram and Twitter their questions. So the first one is, why isn't season 2 called Twunk Revolution?
Because it's not. Next question.
Yeah, we're not twunks. Have y'all thought of a socialist or Marxist review of RuPaul's Drag Race for like a mini episode idea?
No.
That would imply we have to watch it.
Yeah, I have managed to not watch it for 14 glorious seasons. I shall continue to not watch it. Yeah,
if you want to hear something we published, it's go to twinkrev.com. Someone already did the work for us.
Al Musso, I think that's how you say his name. Did it's called was it Drag Race? The only way to win is not to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's a wonderful socialist analysis of the kind of economics and the structure of Drag Race, and the RuPaul's Drag Race subreddit really fucking hated it.
Yeah, we also talked about it a little bit, Drag Race and stuff, in our most recent episode with Zach Langley Chi-Chi of I'm So Popular podcast.
Yeah, which will, I think when this is posted, be last week's episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So check out last week's episode for somebody who actually gives a fuck about Drag Race, talking about Drag Race on the podcast with us.
Yeah.
But no, it's not something I give a shit about. I cannot bring myself to care. I will politely pass my creased dollar bills to drag queens if I find myself in their vicinity in a nightlife setting, but it's not something I seek out personally.
Yeah, think homo, act local. Also, all of these questions are verbatim, so I didn't write them certain ways. How are you both so cool and fun? Which one is the cooler hair, or is it apples to oranges? Well, I'm not fun. I sit home every day and I scroll Twitter. The fun's a lie.
Yeah, Sam is a doom scroller.
Yeah.
For the hair question, I don't know. I mean, I got a haircut sooner in a much more vain way in quarantine. I got an illegal haircut.
It's apples to oranges.
Yeah,
I have like the cooler
if you want a redhead,
color.
you want a redhead or a brunette, basically, is your choice you have to make there.
Yeah. Also, I haven't styled my hair in 6 months, so
No, I haven't really either.
found a product.
It's just not really necessary.
The pandemic times really get you where it hurts. Styled
True.
hair.
Absolutely true.
Okay. Fuck, marry, kill. Yun Chichescu, Yun Honecker, and Yun Mao. Go.
I hate these questions. I really do. I just, I'm a gay man. I would sow my wild oats with all of them.
Yeah, I don't want to kill any of them. They're already dead. I think.
Yeah,
Is Honecker still alive?
can I just fuck all of them? Like, I don't.
Yeah.
Do I have to choose? Why do I have to choose?
Like, I'll marry Honecker because he kind of has the face that you bring home to like your grandma, and she's like, "Oh, isn't he cute?"
He was a cutie.
He was a
I gotta
cutie.
say, yeah.
Definitely.
But so would Chichescu and Mao, honestly.
Mao doesn't really do it for me.
Young Mao.
I'd rather go like a Yun Zhu and Lai. Is his name Zhu and Lai?
Zhao and Lai. Yeah,
He's the one you like. Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So we're not going to kill anyone because we're not counter-revolutionaries.
I think I'm placing a moratorium on all future fuck, marry, kill questions for Q&As.
Oh, well, that's great.
We appreciate all your questions, of course, but Jesus Christ, try a little harder.
Yeah. Here we go. Top, bottom, verse. Stalin, Lenin, and Mao.
Next fucking question. Good God. People, it's not multiple choice. It's a podcast. All we do is prattle.
Yeah. Okay. What is the official twink rev stance on the last truly avant-garde artist of our time? Azalea Banks and Lena Dunham.
This is a good question.
Yeah.
Fantastic. 10 out of 10, listener. You've asked a good question.
Excellence.
Well, so Azalea Banks, I think is, truly avant-garde. I think she's kind of bizarre in a way that I enjoy from afar.
Yeah.
I don't think I would ever want to be stuck in a room with her.
I can't say I've ever heard any of her music or watched anything with Lena Dunham in it. Besides like the one scene she's in for like American Horror Story, she gets like, I don't remember what happens to her. I think they all get murdered, I'm pretty sure. But I think Azalea Banks at least seems interesting, while like Lena Dunham as a person is like horrible, and I hate her.
Well, I've heard all the arguments made by people whomst I respect. I think Jack from the Perfume Nationalist, and also like Anna, are kind of have this sort of argument about how Lena Dunham is actually sort of an amazing artist and practice some sort of self-awareness. I still would revisit my earlier point that I like Azalea Banks. I would not want to be stuck in a room with her.
Right.
And I personally have been left cold by her output that I've seen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything for me. So no real objection. I certainly don't think like dunking on Lena Dunham as an own for her like lib shit is praxis or anything. But I don't know. It leaves me cold. My withers are unwrung.
Well, here's a good one. Is there one non-European revolutionary that you'd want a casual listener to know more about? Yeah, like
William Z. Foster.
He's American.
He's American.
I think they mean white.
Did they mean not white?
Yeah,
they should say that. No, I don't know. I mean, yeah.
I don't know the racial categorizations this person wants us to use or stuff, but if you consider like Latinos to not be European, I would say Che Guevara, Fidel.
No, he's from an Argentinian family, and like basically of he's probably Italian, really. Thomas Sankara is pretty cool, worth checking out.
Ho Chi Minh.
Yes, I think
Mao.
Honestly, yeah, Mao's writings are like really worth visiting. He was a very compelling writer, and would never let the haters get him down. And therefore, I think Mao is very readable. He wrote for the masses.
Yeah.
But had a lot of interesting things to say. I'm a fan.
I mean, the Black Panthers, a lot of them wrote good stuff, like Asada and like Angela Davis and stuff. I mean, I assume they mean like, I'm assuming they're asking like, oh, are these people who aren't white, so maybe they count, but like technically like they're of like the West still, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what you want. You need to be more specific. Good God. What's wrong with people these days?
We need the full charts of the skulls and the limitations and who we can talk about. There's a lot of good people. It's like...
I would say it would be a much harder question to say what like European revolutionaries should you be reading these days.
Yeah.
Because you know the big ones, and then it's kind of a lot of trash after that. So
right. Post-COVID, will you ever consider recording an episode in an Albanian bunker? Also,
pre-COVID, I would. During COVID, I would.
Yeah.
After COVID, absolutely.
There's bars in some of the bunkers now.
Fuck yeah. No, I will record. For one, I'll record an episode anywhere, including in a spray tan booth.
Yeah. You know the story about the bunkers in Albania, right?
No.
Oh, so Enver Hoxha, who is the socialist leader, basically built a fuck ton of bunkers all over the country. So if anything like a chemical weapons attack or like a bombing happened, every single person could be protected in a bunker. And
universal bunker care.
Now they're repurposed for like bars and like cafes and like I think there's like some hostels and stuff in them.
That's true. That's true in a number of European countries. I wasn't familiar with the Albanian example, but that's kind of cool. I'll get down in a bunker.
Yeah. On a scale of Hoxha to Gorbachev, how revisionist is CPUSA?
I think the C stands for CIA. So
I'll say Gorbachev because that's like the parameter you gave us. But I would say they're probably less. They're more revisionist than Gorbachev.
Yeah, a scale of Hoxha to Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah.
Like, they're Pete Buttigieg.
Also, and like, Hoxha was a pretty attractive young man as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Revisionism is not the only charge against CPUSA. Specifically, I think it's an organization that unfortunately just was subject to the first wave of fully weaponized infiltration and undermining and that those are products. I think unfortunately what survived and the people that survived CPUSA were those that were untroubling to power, unfortunately, and therefore there were many heroic and interesting positions taken within the CPUSA over the years, including particularly their record with, say, civil rights in the U.S. or various sort of anti-war and anti-interventionist causes in the first half of the 20th century. But by the 50s, like mid to late 50s, I mean, that wasn't an organization that had, like, it was, I think it was kind of the Langley-Quantico sort of combined outing.
Yeah.
It's where, like, I assume you'd get back from a meeting, and the only organizing they would do would be to maybe talk about like FBI agent pay scales, because they could do that and have quorum to actually like do a union action within some sort of spook organization. It's just, it wasn't great. And then, whatever careerism and just the personal narcissistic pathologies of individual leaders who built these weird little paranoid cabals around them. Not much good to say about any of that. Past a certain date.
Hi guys, I remember Gian saying sometime in a Twitch stream a little while ago about decentering the U.S. as uniquely important primary place for leftist politics to develop, and I was just wondering if you could both talk about this more. He asked you, but
I was giving Sam a withering stare. He has to reinterpret me. I don't remember saying.
Yeah, I don't remember this either.
No, I remember what I was saying. I think it was around the topic of feeling a little like hopeless and being totally blackpilled over the state of the American left, as much as there is such a thing.
Yeah.
And I sort of said, well, you can either sort of pour yourself into a kind of like raging against the American PMC and the professionalized left, which is this weird, militarized wing of the Democratic Party. Or you can look at the fact that there are countries that are not the US where there's very, very energized and engaged and populist movements that might be worth giving a second look to.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it's more like, cast your version of, or cast your net a little wider and live up to the promise of internationalism. Internationalism is not merely a kind of benevolent American colonial concern for, oh dear, the poors are rather, how we should just be concerned for them. No, it's actually means you can take solace in the fact that those struggles are your struggles too. Yeah. And the fact that you happen to live in the heart of the fucking empire and it doesn't have a lot of revolutionary potential at the moment does not mean that you then just have to despair. You can say, no, well, the success of someone outside the US would be my success too, because this is one struggle.
Yeah. I mean,
so it was more about taking solace in the fact that not everyone's always getting their asses kicked as hard as the American left.
I think also like there's this whole vast world of like international relations between different left-wing organizations who have, conferences to share like analysis and like realities on the ground and kind of maintain connections. So when you get things like, I don't know, like Bolivia or Russia or something, you have actual people who are like Marxists to discuss and break down the analysis in a way you'll never get just on your own, because for one, most people don't read language, but also the media so restricts what goes through. But also like, I think people mistake the globalism with like internationalism, which I always see on like parts of like the left, which annoys me. And they're like, well, that's why we should be nationalists. And I'm like, no, because you're tying up globalism and internationalism as if they're the same thing. But internationalism is about like building international working class solidarity. It's not about like the EU or like the World Bank or free trade agreements or open borders for like on borders in the case of like, importing cheap labor. Or
Microsoft has offices in dozens of countries. That's internationalism, right?
Yeah, which is what people do. And it's not the same thing. And it annoys me because it's like, we shouldn't, I think people are giving up too easily on terms like Marxism or like internationalism or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I kind of refuse to give them up because otherwise, like at a certain point, you don't have any words left. And I'm not just going to keep making up new words because they don't mean anything.
Yeah, I'm post-internationalist now.
Yeah, so stupid.
Yeah.
Here's a good one. What can you do as a broke 22-year-old Marxist other than consuming podcasts? Get laid?
Yeah. Live well. Go fuck.
Be a regular 22-year-old. Go, if you're not, I don't know, go learn something.
Have hobbies.
Yeah.
Dude, live a full life. I mean, it's
go party.
There's just there's a sort of self-seriousness to the pose of being a professional revolutionary, sort of LARPing as a professional revolutionary. And I'm not implying that anybody who listens to this podcast would do such a thing, but it's more like, don't be joyless. You still have to live in the world. You should be enjoying your life. Yeah. Youth is wasted on the young and all that, but like, go be young, go have fun. Fuck it, do as best you can.
Also, if you're still in school, I feel like what I wish I knew back then is read all the things you want to read now, because once you become an adult, you kind of stop reading.
Yeah, you'll have no time. Yeah.
Like I read a little bit, but like I read so much more when I was like in college. And I think 22 is the cutoff age, depending on like your life. And I don't know, maybe you're not in college at all, but I don't know. Go be a normal person, and like if you find an organization or something or like a union or something that you find meaningful, like it's always worth checking out.
Join the thing, but don't
make it your whole identity.
Don't waste your fucking life becoming an embittered like person whose only interest is politics, because instead become an interesting person, become a well-rounded person.
Right.
Take up hobbies, take up fucking, I don't know, get weirdly obsessed about art or music
or gardens
or gardening or or fashion or whatever the fuck it is that drives you in life and that you find exciting, and like find joy in the world. You're gonna need it. Like to be a Marxist in this world, particularly in, say, the US, is a fucking miserable affair.
Yeah, I wouldn't put all your happiness into politics, especially as a Marxist, because as we all kind of are aware, it's not really going much anywhere in the US. So it's like, at least build other parts of your identity around like building family and community and hobbies or something. So if it never actually happens in your lifetime, which it could possibly never happen, because who knows, maybe you don't have the conditions at the point, but at least you have other things to make life fulfilling and useful versus like all the sad people on Twitter who are like, the world's not gonna go, we're all gonna die in 10 years from climate change. And it's like, oh, well,
right. The people
you already given up.
entire sort of mental well-being was tied up with the Bernie campaign or something. You have to have something else to fall back on, because win or lose, you're going to get your ass kicked over and over again, politically speaking. So it's just not the place to draw your inner strength or your happiness, nor why other people might find you interesting or worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
Do not ever construct politics as a political identity.
Yeah, don't do that.
It's not useful.
Yeah.
In fact, it's fucking horrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's a kind of like shitty neoliberal brand identity building. Just be an interesting person. Read widely.
Get laid.
Watch films.
Everyone can benefit from getting some.
Bang. Do things you'll regret. Try drugs without knowing exactly what they are.
So great.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Get drug testing kits.
Sure. Test, harm reduction, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. But just, try and become, move through the world as a confident, newly minted adult.
Yeah. Voting for Dem Socias as harm reduction, yes or no?
Sure. Don't give a shit. If it makes you feel better.
Yeah. I don't really care. Like, I think for one, it depends on like where you are, because that's probably more relevant into like what is the best option. Like maybe if you're in Sweden, maybe that's not the area to put all your energy, because it's all like fucking social democrat just arguing over like immigrants and maybe like the gays once in a while, if that. Versus like the US, it's like I supported Bernie because it's like the closest thing to like any marginal material gain. But I also think left-wingers or Marxists I'd say the left wing, I'm not going to say Marxist, put too much emphasis on electoralism. And I don't think that's the area to put your energies behind. Personally, I think it's kind of...
You got to be tactical.
It tends to end eventually once you always stay in a liberal democracy format, and usually just results in like right-wing reactionaries eventually, whether it's after 40 years of like Swedish social dem rule or the US after like FDR, like just kept getting cut, and now we have right-wing Democrats.
Yeah. No, whatever. You consider voting one part of the set of tools you have at your disposal, and sometimes those tools are useful, and sometimes maybe you can make a harm reduction argument, or you think there's actually some specific material gain to be made, in which case, yeah, go for it. Go wild. I don't see it personally. Not in this election, at least.
Yeah. Also, just leave it to yourself. I think when you put too much emphasis on voting as like an important, like radical act, you're legitimizing it as like a tool for revolutionary change. It's why I don't really say go out there and vote, because I'm like, I don't really care. Like, that's not the area where change is going to happen. In a modern digital world, does it make sense for Marxist-Leninist orgs to use old praxis of street corner meetings, handing out leaflets, selling magazines, joining protests and unions, etc.? Or should we be more focused on trying to reach people online with social media and Skype meetings?
I know. Have you tried posting on Twitter? That's the real praxis.
Don't do Skype meetings. Oh my God.
Oh, God.
I'd rather blow my brains out. I'd rather have like full on like free market capitalism.
So I mean, it's really, I think it's really not for me to say. At least I've not been a member of a Marxist-Leninist organization. I have a little bit of fondness and nostalgia for some of the like pamphleteering and flyering and getting out on protests and picket lines type stuff. But you know, who knows? Maybe that's not where our energies are best spent.
Yeah.
And I think it's up to those organizations to try and figure out very clearly what is they're trying to accomplish, and you know, what do they want out of these actions. So, you know, there's finite time to do things, and presumably, you know, in the good neoliberal logic of the market, you want your best return on investment for your time. So
yeah,
I think those things should be part of your arsenal. Certainly, I don't think reaching people online is very simple though.
Yeah, I can only speak from my libertarian organizing days, which is like, I guess in a way, when I was there, still like a marginal political group. But I think it's kind of a fusion. I think we have to utilize digital stuff, like reaching out to people who have like certain political interests and stuff. Like, I guess I can speak from like my experience. So to like recruit people or find people on different campuses and stuff, you would type in like buzzwords on like people and Facebook and stuff and the schools, and then you would just shoot them a message like, hey, are you interested in these things? Like, we have this whole community out there that maybe they're not aware of, which a lot of people aren't aware of, like people out there, like they just think they're alone with these ideas. And once they find someone, they tend to want to actually get involved. But also we have, like, you always have physical presence. You have in-person conferences because they're ways to socialize and make friends and make connections across the country in a way that you really don't have. It's just like digital faces, but also in-person, like education and like advocacy works. For one, it's recruitment, but also and like pushing the ideas out there in a way that the online world will never allow, especially as leftists, because they censor lots of material. Like, if you're part of the BDS world, you'll know that's well aware. Like, if you mention Palestine, your tweets almost always get like shoved down and get no likes, especially on Facebook. That's a big thing I've noticed. So we kind of have to take the physical space, and also you're actually probably not reaching the audience you want to reach in the digital sphere, because most working people aren't spending their time on Twitter and
on
Facebook.
Political Twitter. Yeah.
Like, we're full aware of that. Like,
yeah, there's zero people listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
Well, no, you make an interesting point though, which is to say that I think the value of handing out flyers or whatever is not the fucking flyers. They got thrown in the trash.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you are there, you know, in person. You are a human with a face, presumably, talking one-on-one to people. And it's the conversations you get to have while engaged in that kind of political activity. And so the digital version of this you're talking about, where it's like, oh, I'm actually like direct messaging people, or I'm, you know, and it's you should treat it as an activity of relationship building. You don't, you're kind of treating it as the like, I'm an Instagram brand trying to just like mass blast my branding and my promotional materials out to people. You will just have zero impact. When
you personally message someone or have a face-on-face conversation, you're not a persona. You're like just another person willing to like discuss, and at least it shows a sense of interest and like solidarity that you will never get. It's just like tweeting out into the world like, I love Twitter, but Twitter is not the place of like social change. Like, you're not really changing anyone's minds in most regards.
No, because it's a one-to-many sort of broadcast medium where you're just sort of blasting shit out into the ether in the same way that somebody trying to sell fucking handbags or stupid novelty face mask concepts or whatever are doing.
Right.
And you're competing against that, as opposed to when you have an opportunity to talk to one other human being about the things that interest them and the things that are of concern to them and things that are important to them. That's where you actually, you know, do the work, as it were.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, sure, use things for organizing, or on, you know, for online social media, or whatever. But I don't think it's where you change hearts and minds.
Yeah, like I wouldn't do a ad where it's like, oh, because those don't work. No one's gonna feel like they're being connected to. Don't use neoliberal logic in the case of education and advocacy. I think this is a question more for you. Should New Zealand finally dump the monarchy and become a proper bourgeois republic?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm a
fuck the monarchy.
Strictly anti-monarchist, always have been, always will be.
Every Marxist should be anti-monarchy.
Yeah, I mean, like put it this way: whether you whether you regard a bourgeois republic as an improvement over a constitutional monarchy or not, I just think as a purely a point of principle, no fucking monarchs.
Well, I think we've also seen in history that Marxists often sided with those who weren't Marxist or of a different class position to overthrow the monarchies or the czars to replace it with a bourgeois republic as a stepping stone to lead to the next stage, which is socialism. So I feel like it's always an improvement. Like the Brunei family, or I don't know, the Shah, or it's no longer around.
The Al Saud family.
The Al Saud family. Yeah, that's the family in Saudi Arabia, or like the Gulf kingdoms. They're all probably better to be gone. The Queen of England, like gulag. No, I'm just kidding. Get rid of them. Like you're wasting a lot of money on these fucking assholes. Like,
well, and I would caveat that only to say that I think the sentimental value of the monarchy in a place like Britain is, whatever. Not really for me to say. It probably brings people some brief comfort, and when they read about them in tabloids or whatever.
Just get Kardashians as your new kings and queens.
Yeah, you'll get a royalty. Don't worry. But for New Zealand specifically, where the monarchy is just so remote.
Yeah.
I just don't see the point personally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you support a socialist Kansuk?
So this is one of these weird kind of economic cooperative treaty type organizations.
Like a EU sort of thing?
Sort of, yeah, in that territory. I'm not familiar particularly with this specific incarnation. I think a kind of a socialist radical free trade is a wonderful vision. I'm a fan, but I wouldn't want it to be a weird little community of former colonial states just because they're socialists now. I think if you're doing socialism right, then sort of ready internationalist free trade is a totally natural thing to happen. But this sounds like a weird fucking capitalist economic union, and I will not be having any of it. And I don't know exactly what a socialist version of this would look like, because
I don't think you can have a socialist version.
No, I mean you could have. I mean, I don't know, a socialist Warsaw Pact or something. I mean, it's kind of like, sure. I think maybe larger and larger international groupings, if the constituent nation states are socialist in character, like
Well, I think there was issues with that too, where countries that left were often excluded from trade outright, and I think that's a big failure of the Warsaw Pact and the Soviet Union. So,
sure,
I think in regards to like self-determination of people, because I think there's still countries or Soviet republics or whatever you want to call them, the workers' interest should always come first. I don't think you can really even have like true free trade in a sense, because in many ways it could still like institute like competition over like who gets the rights to like produce the coal and all these things. And
right, yeah, no, I mean that's what I mean by truly radical free trade between socialist nations or whatever. I'm sort of like, well, sure, it's all very contingent on the exact structure, but if it is indeed a well-structured socialist state, then the benefits of that kind of free trade or those sorts of trade arrangements should be accruing to the workers.
Yeah, that's to also take in their interest, which I think free trade as a concept, I don't think does. I think it overarches all those things.
Well, no, because it's a byword for usually very shitty asymmetric trade agreements right now, and that's why I was saying to what it would mean for it to be socialist free trade would have to be where, should it produce asymmetry, at least that the benefits of asymmetry are accruing to the workers.
Mm-hmm.
And that would at least be a better state of affairs. So I don't know. I mean, it's like, as broadly speaking, it's a socialist can zuck.
Well, you can't have that when all these countries are capitalist.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So that's a lovely pipe dream, and one which I'd be very interested to hear the details of should we get to that point, without engaging in too much prefiguration. But I can't imagine, that was it being a particularly nice thing if there's still the capitalist class at the wheel.
Yeah. It also sounds like a system to like redistribute labor in a way that can be problematic of itself, because
absolutely
you're still not, I think a lot of these places don't offer the full treatment of like equal labor rights for everyone, and I think that's an issue that probably just doesn't address.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Who is going to win the election?
Trump.
We're going to watch it, even those who say they will not be. Yeah, it's going to be Trump. After watching last night, like I have like a 99% assumption Trump will win, and I think it'll be like more than last time.
Yes. He has an incumbency effect. Biden is a very weak candidate against him.
I don't think he's trustworthy because he seems so like mentally deteriorated and senile. Like,
right.
What kind of working person wants? If you're gonna get a shitty person, why would you choose a person who's like so senile? You're like, you're the one who's gonna have the controls over the nukes and the trade policies and all these things. I'm like, unless they just assume that like he's gonna die soon and like Kamala's gonna be president. I'm like, I don't think people hate Kamala. They don't want her as president.
Right. So that's the thing. Is if you're not brain poisoned by sort of online radical democratic politics, then you just simply cannot look at this matchup and say, gee, Biden really just represents a return to all the things that are good for me. And so I don't have to regard it as a good thing, but I believe Trump will win by
people
by
also
a considerable amount.
Are in like hardcore denial after last night's debate. They're like, oh, Biden just has a tick. And I'm like, he hasn't had a tick in like the last 40 years of his career. Suddenly he has a tick. No, he has Alzheimer's. Like,
he's having a stroke on stage. He's just a babbling, incoherent old man. And I would say that with some pity, if it weren't for his absolutely dreadful record.
I don't think people are going to vote either. I think people are even more just unhappy with the state of things. They don't feel a need at all. Like,
it doesn't. It's sort of a like, well, I don't really want any of this, but so whatever. I'm going to stay home.
Yeah,
and that works to Trump's advantage because he has a much more activated base.
Mm-hmm. No one's activated by Biden, even though all the vote blue no matter who. They're all the same ones who would have voted regardless.
They would vote for a dead fucking cat.
Yeah.
That's the problem. These are the people who sort of regard this as some serious political contest are not serious political people. They're not political people at all. They are apolitical.
Maybe your politics shouldn't be all vested into like a single election every 4 years. Like, that's why it doesn't matter like who you. I mean, voting is like the laziest form of activism. So maybe if you're actually concerned as like a person who still buys into like electoralism for change, maybe you need to change that and recognize there's other areas to focus, like building up labor or just being involved in communities and hopefully changing some minds and showing them why they could benefit from, populism or socialism or communism or whatever.
Yeah, the sort of inchoate wails of people who are fundamentally apolitical because they are fundamentally Democratic Party partisans, and they would vote for any person with a D next to their name. They do not care. They could be fucking Hitler on the Democratic ticket, and they'll be like, "Wow, we just got to stop the Republicans." And it's sort of it's beyond parody. And I choose a deliberately ridiculous example there to say that these people are not political. They do not engage in even the political contest on their own fucking terms. So anyway, my prediction is, yes, Trump by a larger margin than last time.
They're not even liberals in a sense, because at least the liberals have like a set like ideology behind them of like least the old ones used to be like free speech is like an idea and all of this. And it's kind of like, they don't even believe in that anymore. They're kind of, in many ways, have adopted like neo-feudal mindsets where it's like, we just got to vote for them. We don't really care if the world's falling apart and we all have our houses taken over more by the capitalists.
They could never explain to you why it was so important to support the Democrats. It's just important that we support the Democrats. And so that, you're right. They are not liberals in the traditional sense, because a true liberal actually is the only political actor,
like
the only political.
Greenwald's a real liberal.
Like, yeah, but I mean, they're the only political ideologue, right? Mm-hmm. Who actually has two alternatives in front of them.
Yeah,
you can have right-wing liberalism or you can have left-wing liberalism.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be a fucking liberal in this country is to be spoiled for choice. Yeah. Anybody else has no choices.
Right.
So anyway, yeah.
Also, like last night, I watched like some of the videos on Twitter of like the after coverage, and that was hilarious. But they have, I think it was like 10 people who were undecided voters. And at the end, they were like, raise your hand if you think Biden won the debate. And only one person did, and the 9 others rose their hand for Trump. And it's like, yeah, of course, yeah, Trump's going to win. Like, just be prepared for that, and don't bawl your eyes out, because it's like we all knew it from like the day they ran Biden as the candidate.
Yeah.
And if you cry, well, I'm sorry. Well, life is hard. At least you're not in Yemen. Unless you are a Yemen listener, then we're very sorry. Do you think the vitriol heaped upon Tulsi Gabbard by some lefty indie media was or was not justified? Specifically, that she was the Bernie spoiler narrative. So I don't think she was the Bernie spoiler, because she had jack shit votes. Like, to blame her is to shift blame, when the reality is the blame was on Elizabeth Warren, who held seat during a Super Tuesday, while all of people taking votes from Biden, like Pete Buttigieg and I think Klobuchar and stuff, dropped out, helping him win. So I don't think Tulsi was the spoiler. She had like no votes for anywhere, but Warren took a lot of them. And then, yeah, of course you should fucking criticize Tulsi Gabbard. Like, I think in Caleb's new book, he mentions how she's the voice of the Pentagon. And that's like so true. Like, she's not an anti-imperialist like everyone's trying to say. She's maybe anti-war in some cases, but
she's regime change wars.
Yeah, but she's still war on terror supporter.
Smart wars.
She's supportive of Modi. She aligned with some group today that was like who attacked Ilhan Omar for like voter suppression or something like that. It's like she's whatever. I think she's like was the second least awful person of the Democratic choices. But that's saying that they're almost all complete trash.
Which kind of cancer would you like?
Yeah.
I mean, to answer the question specifically, I'd say the vitriol heaped upon her from a perspective of a wrecker narrative is nonsense. Mm-hmm. And I fucking hate this whole thing where if you're going to go in for electoralism under this stupid, shitty, flawed system, then everybody thinking they're being terribly clever by tactically voting or voting for the person they almost want and shit like that. I'm just like, oh, fuck off. Just vote for the person you think you want. Like, vote selfishly. It's literally meant to be, you sum up all of the selfish interests and you should get something that approximates a sort of an average of those desires.
Yeah.
So no, I don't buy any wrecker narrative around her. I will not be personally supporting her in her quest to be the military candidate that's sort of anti-war-ish sometimes, or whatever the fuck she's up to.
Yeah.
But no, basically put it this way: the lefty indie media attacks on her were disingenuous and stupid.
Right. So I've been getting a fuck ton of alt-right, gay, white supremacist type dude followers lately. They just follow stuff like this. I think it's a TikTok video where this person says they left the left because all it is hating white people. And I said, which I find interesting. I want to engage with them. I'm curious, since I have compassion, like, how do I deal with them? So, did you watch the doesn't matter. It's this person be like, oh, I was once a leftist, and it seemed like all he did is like hate white people more than like any other political thing. It's kind of the same story you hear of like Ariel Scarcella, Dave Rubin, all of these types. Candace Owens does this, but like you weren't on the like you. I don't know. I think for the left, at least means you're like a Marxist. That's what I consider a left, which most people don't agree with. I don't know.
That's maybe a slightly strict definition.
You were a liberal. Like, that's fine. You're all liberals, and you're just deciding which school. And I think there is a point of making politics just like shaming regular people based on like phenotypes as if that's a political project, and then be suddenly surprised why they don't want to join you anymore. Like the old left didn't do that. They tried to build unity between working class people of all ethnicities and skin colors and stuff. But you were probably a liberal, dear. Like, and I think that's the important thing to point out is like, oh, well, point out that's liberalism, and maybe if they are open to hearing actual Marxist thought, point out the long history of them working to unite workers across different lines, because that's what matters, is like broad class unity and overcoming the splits created by the upper class, like racism and sexism and stuff, to keep us divided.
Well, you'll see a lot of kind of well-intentioned left liberals on, say, Twitter, being all talking about left unity being the important thing. Fuck that. There is no importance in that whatsoever. It's an incredibly overrated notion of why, basically an excuse for why fucking sincere Marxists should really be voting for Joe Biden. That's what left fucking unity means.
Yeah.
What matters is class unity. And that class, you have to meet them where they are. And I'm not suggesting that hanging out with bourgeois alt-right gays or whatever is like, don't cuddle up to them. They're fucking scum.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Do your best to meet people where they are, and they've and just remember, many people have probably never heard an alternative.
Right.
It's to quote Jesus, forgive them, Lord, for they know not what they do.
Yeah.
If they've never heard an alternative, I mean, they might be forgiven for thinking that this is the path to a better world or a different world, even though it hinges upon some pretty hideous racial theories. They're the same racial theories propounded by the fucking libs, like woke libs. So you can see why somebody could get a little confused. And I don't think any of that's good or admirable. But I guess do your best to talk them around.
Yeah.
And if they're actually just expressing a naked bourgeois class interest under the veil of very ugly racial politics, and we'll tell them to fuck off. But
yeah, I think the reality is, to change someone's political thought through conversation isn't like a one-off thing you can just do. Like, you can't just send like an article and they'll just change their mind. It's kind of a project that requires a lot of time, and a lot of it has to be their desire to want to learn more and stuff. If there's no openness to hearing other sides, then just instantly just like, don't waste your time. Like, it's literally, you're going to waste, it's like talking to like a vote blue no matter who, like them. You're going to waste your time because they don't care about your other opinions. They're not going to ever hear what you're actually saying. They're just going to interpret it for their own mindset. So you need to kind of know like who's even worth investing your time, which is finite, in conversations. Maybe it's better spent on like other working people who are just kind of like upset with the world, and maybe people you already have relationships with. Like,
right.
I feel like that's the best way to go.
Other people are like, I'm not talking to my family anymore because they don't, vote for Nancy Pelosi. Go talk to them.
Yeah, like
go tell them, actually, you know what? Yeah, that's fine.
Like, the area to start is like your coworkers, and I mean, depending on like how safe it is in your workplace, don't get fired for talking Marxism, but or like your family or your friends, or maybe involved in like advocacy and like your community kind of areas you're already familiar with.
Right.
I wouldn't even say the online. If they're online, that's not the world to waste your time on.
That's weird culture war shit. It's a strange little distortion of what is already a distortion of normal social relations.
Yeah, it's so rare to actually change someone's mind online.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This is our last question.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we went through all of them.
That's good. We're coming up on time.
This one's a little one. So, I am now the harassment and grievance officer for my university's newly formed youth DSA chapter, and I had an awkward struggle session in our Discord server with our social media manager about Armenia. With zero context, I simply commented, "This is a pro-Armenia server." I tried to tell this 19-year-old anarcho-Bidenist you should revise that statement, saying, "This chapter stands in solidarity with the Armenian people. It's not everyone aware of the political history behind the Armenian struggle." They went off on me, insinuating that I was implying that the Turkish government is good and I was indirectly endorsing ethno-nationalism. Then when I tried to type my responses, they either brushed me off or didn't listen to my request to address hypothetical internationalism at a later time. What do you think about how to handle this potential grievance myself? Or like, how should I handle it?
Oh.
Well, for one, I think it's really stupid.
Just go get a job in the dick sucking factory. You'll have a lot more fun. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I think it's really stupid to feel a need to just post like a line as like an organization. Like as an individual, who cares? Like, it doesn't really matter. Like as an organization where your whole point is like to build a movement, just saying this is a pro-Armenia account or whatever, and no context isn't really helpful because no one knows what you're talking about. Like, I can assure you, if I went to any like regular working class person in my family and I was like, if I mentioned Armenia, I think most of them probably wouldn't even know that's a country, which isn't saying anything bad about like why would they care? Like, how is Armenia besides the Kardashians ever been relevant to them? I don't know. I feel like the only reason you would post about it is like for woke school or folk signaling, or if you were serious about like solidarity, at least like work on like an article explaining a situation and like why it's relevant to American workers. You know what I mean? Like if American workers can't do anything about it, or their students can't do anything about it, there's kind of just like no point in talking about it. You could focus on so many other things.
Well, yeah, this is a very DSA problem to have.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote a thing back in about 2017, I think, which we actually republished on twinkrev.com.
Is it the tent one?
Which is called "A Big Tent Has Walls." And I think, sorry, I'm dredging my memory here, but the example I sort of used was like, if I'm very animated by the idea about like whether mayonnaise should be used as a condiment on fries or not or whatever, then like,
yeah, that
doesn't belong in the fucking DSA.
Also,
just, like you can go start another organization, which is your like Society for the Abolition of Mayonnaise as a Condiment.
mm-hmm.
However, unfortunately, everyone has fucking Democrat brain where they're like every political organization must be a totalizing one.
Yeah.
Like the GOP and the Democrats are both totalizing. There's nothing they can say is outside their purview. So you are suffering from this, my friend. And, I would gauge your just personal fucking enthusiasm for this bullshit. I would have no time for it. But it
doesn't seem like the struggle to worry about.
No, but so specifically to why you must understand why an anarcho-Bidenist is chiding you about not letting them use a political organization as their personal fucking political soapbox for just a pointless sort of symbolic gesture.
Yeah.
Well, this is the problem. This is kind of structural. And I say that with much love for my DSA comrades who are still, fighting the good fight there.
Mm-hmm.
But this is why I am no longer involved with DSA, is I don't think it has the has the fucking stones to basically say, no, that just doesn't belong here.
Also, I can guarantee.
So you should say, no, that just doesn't belong here, and see how that goes. But who the fuck knows?
I can also guarantee 99% of people posting about it have no idea what's going on there and have never heard of even like the NK region. I don't know how to say the full thing. I've seen it abbreviated that way. So the Nagorno something. I don't know. I haven't posted about it because I don't know jack shit about it. Like, I think they're just trying to jump into a thing without knowing the full context. Like, I think it's fine to wait. Like, it's fine to wait and have like find out more information and see as things go on, and then see if it is like this happens. It's happened quite often between the regions, so it's like it's not a new phenomenon. The only ones who actually probably know anything about the situation and care are like Armenian Americans, because like same way like the Armenian genocide.
Center Kardashian voice.
Yeah. Like Kim Kardashian is the one you let talk about this. Don't let your UFDSA talk about this. Like,
well, but it's like, it's not even just that. It's simply to say that.
Well, they have no point. Like, you're just like making.
Right. Well. So here's the question. Then is you have to be able to say what is the point of your political organization? Who do they serve?
Yeah.
What political actions are they advocating that members take? And it turns out that sort of the way that American foreign policy tilting works, we never quite support overtly, but we tilt, doesn't give a fuck what some random YDSA member thinks about this conflict.
Yeah. I mean, also, if you're going to make a point, you kind of need to give a call to action. And like, people hate on the Kardashians, but Kim Kardashian actually listed out like, here's what we should do and push our country to like stop funding, like stop selling weapons to like Turkey, who's supporting Azerbaijan, or there was like a sign up thing for a list of like demands to the government. Like, it might not do anything, but at least she has like a coherent, like understandable, like here's why you should care and what we can do about it as Americans, because we're not going to be like the ones telling Azerbaijan or Armenia, Israeli people, like how to run a country. Only people in those countries can really do that, and like the imperial arm, but they don't listen to us, as we all learned from the Iraq war protests. Like,
right. Well, yeah, and just just thinking about the structure of something like a YDSA chapter, the types of people who are inspired to go join a young youth democratic socialist org are thinking political people with a full range of a full beautiful spectrum of opinions on every conceivable topic.
Yeah.
The problem is many of those don't belong in the organization, or they're not best expressed through the organization. And if you can find the secret to how do you build the fucking immune system up to be like, yo, I know you're really, really, I know like, divorced dad visitation rights is like your main animating issue, but like, this is not the right venue for that. So I know personally, I would go back to a kind of proceduralism around what is the right venue to use an official communication channel of an organization, and see if you can just wheel people back to be like, you know what, this doesn't matter. We don't have to factionalize over this conflict, which we have no power over anyway.
It might be important too. I don't know how the UFDSA thing works, but if you have a chapter constitution, it might be important to bring up during a meeting, like outlines of what is and isn't acceptable to post on the chapter's social media. Like maybe you have like, oh, we limit it to things we're doing as a chapter and like labor things. Like maybe they can't just post whatever they want because they're given a position. I think that's totally reasonable. And also, I think this highlights the issue with a kind of decentralized functionality in like the DemSoc space, because you wouldn't really have as much of an issue of this when you have a sort of centralized apparatus to decide like, oh, approval of like what's being released and decisions, and you kind of just accept, like if you vote like, oh, here's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, majority agrees, so everyone agree is
everyone is bound by that. Democratic centralism is kind of that principle, or just honestly just some kind of message.
Which I know they can't do any DSA, like that's not allowed. But
sure, but yeah, just message discipline of like it turns out, given the impression that in some official capacity you're taking some weird fucking political position. Like, what the fuck do you know? Who the fuck cares? I don't care.
Yeah.
So anyway,
you could also be a Chad and just come with like a ton of research in your mind, and then start challenging them on it, and just show them to be like a woke loving thing. But don't do that.
Or become a troll. Just
that's what I mean. Like, be a troll.
Just post dick pics on the Discord. That's the right way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Do it. So anyway, I think that's about our episode.
Yeah.
That's all our questions. Thank you to everyone who contributed a question, including those who contributed bad questions.
Yeah, we didn't read those ones.
Sorry, we didn't answer them. Yeah. What do we got going on? We've got a Patreon. Yes. Patreon.com/twinkrev. That is the place to go to give your money to twinks.
Yeah. Check out twinkrev.com. We have some more new articles coming out. We posted a few last week.
Yeah.
Which are pretty cool. And then, what else? I don't know. Check out our newer season 2 episodes. They're quite fun and lighthearted if you're maybe not a person who's super into the political aspect of Twink Rev, but like the snarky bitch humor. And then you'll love our last 2 with the Thought Topics boys and Zach Langley Chi. And we're going to hopefully do more like that in the future, and maybe some more serious ones later on. Like, who knows?
Yeah. And if you haven't actually gone back and listened to the Thought Topics episode with Twink Revolution and the Zach Langley Chi I'm So Popular episode with Twink Revolution, those, that's some material in the can you can enjoy while we're off gallivanting around the Midwest.
Also, if you haven't seen the debate last night but want to have some amazing Marxist commentary, the crew from More Marxist Than You Could Handle, we're all on a live stream that's published on the Red Lettuce, so feel free to check out. We have a lot of alcohol in that video.
Yeah, it's necessary to get through it.
Yeah, until next time.
Bye.
Bye.